Hello, everybody. It's Chris Williams from the Scum Dogs channel. Again, I'm sorry for another late stream, but hey, I tried to get on here as quick as possible. It's another late stream.
Hello, everybody. It's Chris Williams.
And yeah, I'm streaming live, and you can hear that. We're going to be looking at weird stories and other weird things tonight and having some fun. We're going to be looking at all sorts of things, ghosts, monsters, and stuff like that. So sit back and have some fun. But first, while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show off some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scum Dogs. Here's my extreme 90s cover. I did this cover to harken back to the comic books of the 90s. It looks pretty good. It's an extreme cover, don't you think? It has pretty much all of my characters on this cover. Scum Dogs is the name of my graphic novel. It's a parody book. I parody the cartoons from the 80s. You'll see a lot of characters in this book that will remind you of the cartoons from the 80s, so you'll sit back and enjoy it. I work on this book every day. Now, the Scum Dogs, the actual titled characters, they're supervillains out to take over the world. You see, they used to compete in sporting events known as the Scum Dog Sports. Sporting events held with superhuman monsters as the pro athletes. See, they're called scum and dogs because they traded in their humanity for money. See, they wanted to become athletes in the Scum Dog Sports, superhumanly powerful monsters. So they did this for fame and fortune. So they're not exactly the nicest guys around. But what happens when they get banned from sports? Well, they decide to take over the universe. The Scum Dogs are led by Deathmug, the purple guy with the metal mask over here. He's a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. He's an arrogant dictator who wants to rule the world. And as I said, he's based on various villains from 80s cartoons. Like Skeletor from He-Man, he has a skull face. Like the villains of G.I. Joe, the leaders of Cobra. Like Cobra Commander, he's got a metal mask. Like Serpentor, he's got gold on him. And he's purple, like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And of course, he's fighting his arch enemy, Buick Starpoon, the guy with the pink pompadour hair. Notice the uniform he's wearing, that green uniform. Anyone with a similar uniform on this cover to Buick Starpoon is part of his team in the Space Forces. He's the guy with the pink pompadour hair over there. He's basically a G.I. Joe parody, mostly of Duke from G.I. Joe. And all of his team in the Space Forces each have a military specialty like G.I. Joe, something in the military they do. But Buick Starpoon is also a parody on the space opera hero kind of characters. You know, those space heroes like from Star Trek or something like that, or Star Wars or any other kind of thing like that. He's based on various characters like Zap Brannigan, Captain Kirk from Star Trek, Buzz Lightyear or Buck Rogers, those kinds of hero kind of characters. He's an arrogant military guy who never admits he's wrong, even though he knows he's doing wrong and continues to screw up. That's Buick Starpoon. Now, the other members of his team are on this cover as well. You can see this guy over here with the mohawk. His name is Roadhog. His military specialty is that he's an army guy. He was part of the army before he joined up with Buick Starpoon, but he's just an army guy. A tough, no-nonsense soldier who does what he's told. Then we have this bald guy with a gun down here in the blue uniform. His name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine, just another Marine. Then we have this guy back here in the red uniform, firing off his weapons. His name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. He drives his battle wagon into battle fighting the enemy. He's an awesome character. Now, this cover is one of 3 different variant covers you can back for Indiegogo. When it's up on Indiegogo, when it's done, folks. So look forward to that. It's one of 3 different variant covers. Now let's go over here. This is Girl Friday. Girl Friday is another member of the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. Girl Friday was assigned to work directly under Buick Starpoon to basically, steer him from causing mass destruction, because while the Wild Rangers fight the Scum Dogs every day and save the universe, they're just morons whose idea of saving something is basically blowing it up so the Scum Dogs can't take it. So to head off criticism, because they were destroying everything around them, her superiors in the Space Forces assigned Girl Friday as Buick Starpoon's second in command, and she hates him because she thinks her career in the military is over because she's basically a little better than a sitter. Basically a minder. And that's Girl Friday. Now, folks, please hit that like button for me. It really helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my content. And the more people that see my content means my graphic novel Scum Dogs comes out all the sooner. As well as, please remember, this video will be on the first pinned tweet on my Twitter page at 77megachris1 because YouTube buries my videos for at least 24 hours. So you can't just go to my YouTube page to see this video. If you want to watch it again, you're just going to go to my Twitter page at 77megachris1. It'll be the first pinned tweet for at least the next 24 hours. Then it'll appear on my YouTube channel and stuff. But if you want to watch this again, go to at 77megachris1 on Twitter. It'll be the first pinned tweet. And remember, folks, hit that bell and hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications for my videos. And share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. Here we have Death Mug's henchmen, because you know in all 80s cartoons, the main villain of the cartoon would have henchmen, and they'd be total morons. These are my morons. The pink guy down here is Sloppy, and the blue guy up here with the top hat is Murder Mouth. There are a couple of morons that keep screwing up all of Death Mug's orders, but they have fun doing it, and you're going to have fun watching them. They are great. Now let's go over here. Here we have Hair Metal Doctor. Hair Metal Doctor is a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist has been crossed over with a hair metal musician. It's cool. He thinks of all the machines the Scum Dogs use to try and take over the universe. He does it while being Hair Metal Doctor. Here we have Miss Breasty Melons, who's basically a parody of the Baroness from G.I. Joe. You see the way she looks? Yeah. One of those hard she's one of those, or at least she's one of those hard talk. She's a hard woman with a nice body. She became a scum dog just to have fun being evil. She became evil just to have fun. She's only doing this to have fun. Now, the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty Melons pinup will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel when you back it. But I will also get these pinups out to you on t-shirts from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make them, okay? Now, we looked at this. Let's go on and look at some Indiegogos before we look at some monster stories and stuff. Well, cryptids and monsters. Let's go over here. Let's do this. Let's see if you guys hit that like button for me. Oh, not too yet. But if you have not hit that like button for me, folks, please do so. It really helps me fight the algorithm. Let's go over to Indiegogo real quick. Alien Alamo has made 101,766. U.S. Assassin Book 3 Graveyard Shift has made 17,806, 24 days left. Alien Alamo is still funding in demand, so that's good. Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter has made 36,560. Let's refresh this to see if this book... Oh, Black and White Volume 2 has made 27,906 with 30 days left. Let's refresh again. Let's see. Black and White Volume 2 has made 31,958. Black Ops Calmer in America has made $11,005 with 2 days left. Let's see. Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog has made 129,344. Tyler Grisham's final boss exclusive cover where you see him fight another superhero has made 224 with 30 days left. Wrath of God has made 62,297. Jack the Ripper has made 36,875. These are such great books. Godlike, the Romulus Saga has made $156,380 over that. You can back this book for $25. You have several different covers you can back. You can get the Godlike Supplemental for $25, and you can get Visions 2. I guess there's that. No variant covers, huh? But that's fine. Everything I loved about the Magic, because you can buy more than one book here and stuff. Everything I loved about the magic of Saturday morning's comic book and anime and cinema. Described as Star Wars meets John Carter. All hope in humanity is gone. So we thought. John Malin, Jawbreakers, returns to reinvigorate the American superhero. Let's see. Synopsis. In the far future, dark age is upon us. Far future dark age is upon us. One man must remember his past to save the last of humanity on a distant world. In an age where magic and science are one, haunted by visions of a bygone age in a mythical world known as Earth, pursued by a super powerful alien race and their traitors, human acolytes, to kill a god, our champion must risk everything to harness the power Romulus, a legend from the distant past, to become godlike. Looks good. Looks very good. The artwork in this book looks great. You also get supplemental with Two-Fisted Tales, 24 pages each. You get 2 stories in that book, but you can also get Visions, which is basically a collection of pinup art that you can do with that is out there. It looks great as well. Let's see. Let me see that again. That's good, huh? Want to watch that again just one more time? Let's get it started over here, huh? All right, that was pretty good. This book is pretty good. It's up on Indiegogo. Go back it, folks. Let's see. For 12 minutes in, maybe look at a few other books. Alien Island was 102,106, and that's pretty good. Earthbound is doing pretty well. Let's see. Maybe look at Alien Alamo. Final Boss has made Shadow Century Book 2, Belly of the Beast, has made 19,682 with 23 days left. Not bad there either. Ooh, that's another good-looking book. Tyler Kirkham's Final Boss graphic novel has made 48,261 with 11 days left. Earthbound Part 2, doing pretty well. Not bad. Let's go down here. Or maybe I should just look at... Let's go down. Let's see. What should I look at next? Maybe I should go back up here. There's right. Let's look at Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter. Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter comes from Mandy Summers. The book cover A, $25. Each cover is $25, and each of them looks good. Oh, that's good. Some good artwork. All right. Cover C, it looks like you can only get for the next, 20, it was only 3 days and stuff. Too bad you can't get that one again. Very exclusive one. The artwork in this book looks great. This is a black and white book, and it looks good. All right. Not really. Looks good. A plague has swept through the old town, London, and Newborn vampire uprising has begun. There's only one person can stop it. Jack the Ripper, vampire hunter. Jack is in a race against time to stop the world's most killer, most killer vampire. Killer, the Highgate vampire. The ancient vampire harbinger has created a legion of all-powerful newborn vampires to stop Jack's pursuit so that he may flee London, taking a refuge to enter an eternal rest that will replenish his hellish power. Can Jack put the final clues together in time to find the Highgate vampire and stop him before it's too late? Join the hunt and basically get this book. It looks good. Jack the Vampire Hunter it looks like a great looking book. You have several different covers you can back in. It comes from Mandy Summers. It's made $36,875. It's got 47 hours left. And it looks good. That looks great, huh, folks? Let's see what else to see here. Let's see. Should I look at this trailer? Maybe. 15 minutes in. I think I'm going to go over here and look at some cryptids. There are a few new. There's a mysterious cow mutilations. Continuing in Oregon and Argatha. Weird stories. I'm going to look at tonight. Incredibly surreal encounters with incredibly bizarre alien entities. A few comet learned. That looks very good, huh, folks? Which story I should look at first? Let's go with some bizarre alien entities. Well, these are cryptids too, you know. This cryptid corner is basically going to be talking about weird stories and varied entities. It's not going to be one theme tonight. That's why cryptids and weird and very you're going to be looking at some cool stuff. Let's get into this. Over a decade, there have been all manner of reports of encounters with beings and entities from beyond our understanding. These have taken place in many forms, including remember, folks, leave me a few chats. I want to hear from you guys. Familiar gray alien, familiar gray aliens, different creatures, and even insectoids. Yes, some reports get even weirder than these. Way weirder, in fact, completely evading all reason and classification. Here we will look at a selection of various encounters with alien entities that are just about the most bizarre and bonkers there have ever been. Now, this sounds like we might be covering a few different cryptids and creatures we've covered before, but hey, let's have some fun with this article. Starting the 1950s, we have a really weird account from 1954 in an unspecified location in the country of Canada. July 2nd of that year, a 23-year-old Canadian miner named Lil Sarza, Neo. Let's call this guy Bob, huh? I don't want to try to save his name. Was out in the wild when he saw a spherical object about 25 feet in diameter with a set of portholes around the edge and pieces of landing gear or something like a retractable antenna on top of it. Land in a nearby clearing disgorged three completely bizarre entities. They were described as being 13 feet tall with bluish-green skin and glowing bodies. Their heads held antennae on top and a single eye set within them, and had 6 evenly distributed sets of arms tipped with crab-like pincers that clattered open and shut. The leader of the group apparently rushed Bob here and hit him with a psychic blow that knocked him to the ground before they all got back in their craft and headed off at great speed. From 1957, we have the strange case of a retired teacher, Miss Mary M. Starr. She claims that on December 16th, 1957. I think we remember that last story with these weird creatures from their ship and stuff. I think I've read it before, maybe. She was this teacher and stuff. She was in her home near Old Brock, Connecticut, when she was woken at around 3 a.m. by a very bright light outside of her room. When she looked outside, she could see a large hovering craft with big square windows hovering over her clothesline, and as she looked on, she couldn't see entities moving about them. Well, she could see entities moving about them. These truly bizarre creatures were about 4 feet tall with arms but no hands, and a transparent cubes for heads with some sort of, they sound like robots, sort of red core encased within and rubbery bodies that surrounded them like skirts. The creatures ran about in front of the windows for a time, waving about their headless arms before the windows suddenly vanished, as if never there, and the whole craft began to glow brightly. And the whole craft began to grow brightly, and they suddenly shot off into the night to leave her standing there in awe. Yeah, that looks like it might be some sort of robot, doesn't it? The late author Brad Striger, well, Brad here, covered in his book Strangers from the Skies, the case of Hans Gustafsson, the 30-year-old Stig Roydberg. Hans Gustafsson and 30-year-old Stig Roydberg, who on December 20th, 1958, were on their way along Route 45 from Hungs to Honesburg in Sweden in the early morning hours along the foggy road that had such poor, very hard to see, had such it was very hard to see for these guys, that the two friends decided to pull over near the rural village of Domsteen. As they walked about outside the vehicle, they soon noticed through the haze that there was some sort of glow emanating from surrounding forest nearby. The two decided to hike off into the darkened glow forested trees to try and see where the light was coming from, and after penetrating around 150 feet into the woods, they allegedly came across the source of the glow, which proved to be far more bizarre than they anticipated. There before them was a disc-like object resting on two legs, around 2 feet long, and the whole of which cast a scintillating glow of ever-changing colors. Even odder than the sight of this apparently flying saucer was what could be soon seen covering about the vicinity, which were 3-foot-long amorphous blobs that Rayberg would describe as follows. Yeah, I think I remember this. They were like protozoa, just a bit darker than most, sort of a bluish color, hopping and jumping around the saucer-like globs of animated jelly. Nowhere on the bodies were any visible limbs or sensory organs, nor any other discernible features, and it was as if they were just pulsating globs of gelatinous goo that could somehow levitate over the ground. Things got rather tense very quickly when these unusual entities suddenly surrounded the two puzzled men and purportedly began to engulf their limbs within their throbbing masses, described as feeling like magnetic dough, while at the same time exerting a terrible stench like ether, burnt sausage, no matter how much the men kicked and lashed out of these mysterious entities. They were able to either dodge or absorb the blows to little effect, as if they were made of jelly. It seemed as if the blob-like creatures were trying to drag the increasingly terrified witnesses toward the gleaming disc, and no matter how hard the two witnesses fought back and struggled, it did little good. Chance Raidberg finally managed to tear himself, Chance Raidberg finally managed to tear himself free and run back towards their car with the alien blobs in hot pursuit. When he reached the vehicle, he leaned heavily on the car's horn, piercing the night with a wail of noise in an effort to draw everyone's attention to their plight, but which also seemed to have the effect of startling the creatures enough to let go of Christopherson. The blobs then huddled under their craft and filed inside and shot off away to the night sky, leaving behind a screeching, whistling blare, the nauseating stink, and two very shaken men who found that they were covered in strange bruises and cuts. Griffiths and Rayberg, perhaps understandably, kept the story to themselves for some time, but when it finally came out, it became a minor sensation. Sweden, the two witnesses, were also interviewed by police. And although the story was without a doubt off the wall, they could find no sign of any hoaxing going on. And when the two were secretly monitored when they thought they were alone, they did not let on that there was any lying or trickery going on. Griffithson and Raidberg were also found to be in fine physical and psychological health. And in the end, police concluded that the men really seemed to have been traumatized by what they at least truly believed they had seen. Whatever that was, it is difficult to ascertain just what it was that these two men saw, or at the least thought they saw, with no other accounts anywhere near. We will probably never know. Moving into the next decade, we have the extremely weird encounter of an unidentified businessman in France who, in November of 1962, was purportedly driving along a lonely rural road in Var, France, in the region of Var, France, when he had an amazing encounter with what would change his life. And that time it was allegedly raining profusely when he saw something rather odd in the gloom ahead. There, through the slashing rain, he saw huddled in the road a group of figures that he at first took to be people, but which would soon prove to be far stranger. He would say of the encounter, "Rounding the bend, I saw 80 meters, just over 260 feet ahead, a group of figures clustered in the middle of the road. I slowed down to avoid the group, and at the same moment, it split into two parts. Suddenly and jerkily, my window was down, and I leaned my head out slightly to see what was the matter. It was then that I saw beasts, some kind of bizarre animals with the heads of birds and covered with some sort of plumage, which were hurling themselves from two sides toward my car. Terrified, I wound up my window, accelerated like a madman, and did not stop 150 and did not stop 150 meters, approximately 500 feet further on. Well, he went on and stopped 150 meters, 500 feet further on. I turned around and saw these things, these beasts, these nightmarish sorts of beings, which were heading with a sort of flapping of wings towards a luminous dark blue object which hung in the air over a field on the other side of the road. Yes, we've talked about these stories before, but hey, well, it sounds like a harpy, huh? Maybe. I don't know about that. Little bird people? Could be. There's also talk of I've heard of such winged things before as well. We might have to look into various articles like that, huh, folks? As if all of this wasn't odd enough, he would claim that as the menacing humanoids flew up and towards the object, they were literally sucked up into it, as if by a whirlwind, after which the craft shot off at breathtaking speed. What was going on here? In 1965, we have the rather odd experience of 25-year-old Jeffrey Maskey, Mavis Fordyce, and Michael Onsen, who on the evening of September 20th, 1965, were driving along a remote road near Flixtow, England, when things got truly weird. Indeed, they apparently pulled over to the side of the road to have a chat when Johnson suddenly and inexplicably got out of the car to go wandering off into the gloom. The others assumed he just had gone off to do nature's business, but the two young men then heard a high-pitched humming sound coming from the surrounding wilderness. As they looked around for the source of the unsettling noise, they saw an oval-shaped UFO hovering about 90 feet over their car, surrounded by creepy orange glow. It would not be until the next day that Johnson would arrive and tell them of how the evening had gone. He would claim that he had been commanded by some unknown force to get out of the vehicle and go into the woods, and that when he had ventured out into the trees, he encountered a strange creature that had large eyes and was engulfed by orange flames. As soon as he had seen the flaming beast, he had blacked out completely, and he would say that he had no memories of what had happened. Next, he had woken up. Yeah, this is a story I don't think we've read before. This is pretty interesting. Up the next day in a hospital bed, only to be, or have I read this story before? Maybe. It sounds like it could be. Hospital bed, only to make his way back to his syringe with his incredible story. Perhaps even weirder than all of this is a story from the winter of 1967 when a farmer in Missouri and a rather harrowing and otherworldly experience with what he called green space penguins. 64-year-old Carl Edwards would claim that he had gotten up to do his farm work like any other day when he walked across one of his fields and saw sitting there a massive grayish-green mushroom-like object which was perched atop a circular tube. As he stared on in awe, he noticed a group of diminutive figures waddling about below the object, and he noticed that all of this was seriously spooking his cows. For some reason, perhaps out of curiosity, Edward started to approach the strange creatures, and you could see that they were 3 feet high in a grayish-green skin and with no hands, tiny feet, and no nicks on their big heads. They wore goggles of some type, and the whole of it caused him to describe them as little green penguins, which he said swarmed about the bottom of the UFO and seemed to ignore the farmer at first. As he drew closer, Edwards claimed that he had picked up some rocks in a plan to lob them in their direction, but when he got within 15 feet, he was abruptly stopped by some sort of force field that prevented him from going any further. He had even threw a rocket at it only to see it bounce off some unseen barrier and drop uselessly to the ground. However, he could now see the mysterious flying object in more detail, describing it as having a smooth metallic texture like shiny silk, with no seams and with some oval portholes of some type, with surreal display of multicolored lights playing out beyond them. He would say of this bizarre craft, the object just looked like a big shell, grayish-green looking outfit, and underneath there were oblong holes where the lights were coming out. They were so bright you couldn't see when you got up there, as if a color wheel was turning inside. The whole thing took over 5 minutes, maybe 10. I had never seen anything like it. It looked like shiny silk or something. I couldn't tell. I was going to tell, though, if I could if I could have hit it with that rock. Perhaps foolishly, Edwards threw another rocket and even harder than the first, and although the stone also bounced off, it managed to capture the attention of the space penguins. The creatures all looked to him in unison before scurrying behind the craft and then entered the craft through the portal. The object then began to ascend into the air, shooting off at an amazing speed to vanish. Another downright bizarre case coming to us from the U.S. state of West Virginia, where in July of 1968, a local man by the name of Jennings Frederick was out bow hunting in the rural backwoods just outside of Vermont, West Virginia. Folks, sorry about the late stream again. I'll try to get back to doing one about 11 o'clock tomorrow, folks, but feel free to come and listen to my cryptid and just weird stories stream tonight. We're just having fun having some fun looking at cryptids and weird stories tonight, having a few fun with these cryptids here. I mean, yes, they're aliens, but they're still cryptids. Let's see, at Fairmont, West Virginia, at some point he allegedly heard a high-pitched, unearthly sound that he would describe as something like a recording running at, and as I get back to this story here. This guy who basically encountered this, let's see, a high-pitched, unearthly sound that he would describe as something sounding like a recording running at high speed. Curious, Jennings searched out for the origin of this real noise, and this was when he would come across a very strange sight indeed. There in the bush stood a 7-foot-tall semi-humanoid entity with an extremely thin, almost skeletal frame, long ears, stalk-like arms that were almost like tendrils, and which ended in slender 7-inch long fingers, tapered with some sort of needles or thorns, as well as suction cups. The whole of the anomalous creature was described as green and very plant-like in nature, as if it were part animal and part plant. The whole time Frederick watched it, that incessant chattering sound reverberated around him, and he suddenly realized that he could make out words within the alien noise, like glimpses of meaning from what noise which he took to say, "You need not fear me. Yeah, this is the plant creature. I wish to communicate. I came as a friend. We know all of you. All. I come in peace. I wish medical assistance. I need your help." As Frederick stood there, wide-mouthed in bewilderment, the mysterious being purportedly suddenly lashed out with one of its stalk-like arms with blind speed to wrap him in an iron grip. The needles or thorns on its fingers then apparently pierced the startled man's skin and began to draw blood. But rather than the pain, he found himself drawn to the thing's eyes, which seemed to rapidly switch back and forth from red to yellow in a hypnotizing, oscillating cycle that held him in a thrill and dulled his senses. After about 2 minutes of this, the otherworldly plant monster reportedly let him go and took off in a sprint up a nearby embankment in great 20-foot, 5-foot-long bounds, followed shortly after by a deep thrumming noise that Frederick would later speculate to have been the sound of the creature's spaceship. For years, Frederick kept this undoubtedly absurd-sounding story to himself out of fear of ridicule. But in 1976, he would relate to it to the paranormal researcher Gray Barker, who would then include in his newsletter. The story would be brought to even greater attention when it was mentioned in the late Brad Sticker's 1970 book, Alien Meanings. Was this an alien some sort of cryptid or what? Whatever it was, the vegetable man of West Virginia is certainly one of the most bizarre encounters on record. From 1974, we have the very weird story from Brad Mountain in Washington State. In the United States, just about reportedly 20 miles east of Charles, Washington, on November 14th, 1974, a fiery object was witnessed to fall from the sky in the areas. After that, several motorists started reporting seeing a very strange entity prowling about the region. Witnesses reported seeing a horse-sized beast with tentacles. By the way, folks, if you can, please remember to hit that like button. It helps me fit the algorithm. With the more people that hit that like button, means more people will watch my videos, and that means my graphic novel Scum Dogs comes out all the sooner. And remember, if you want to watch this video again, go to my Twitter page at 77megachris1. It'll be the first on the first pinned tweet for the next 24 hours if you want to watch this video again, because, well, YouTube buries my videos for at least 24 hours or so. So if you want to watch it again as soon as I'm done with this live stream, go to @77megachris1 on Twitter. It'll be the first pinned tweet. Remember also, hit that bell, hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications. And please, folks, please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook and Gab. Let's get back to this article. From 1974, we have a very weird story from Bald Mountain, Washington State in the United States, just reportedly 20 miles east of Charles, Washington, on November 14th, 1974. I know it's something Chalice. I'm just going to say in Washington where this took place. A fiery object was witnessed to fall from the sky in the area, and after that, several motorists started reporting seeing a very strange entity prowling about the region. Witnesses reported seeing a horse-sized beast with tentacles and an antenna and emanating a neon green glow, which would shamble about the wilderness. It would be cited on more than one occasion what witnesses would say of it. Witness reported seeing horse-sized beast with tentacles and antenna. It was horse-sized, covered with scales, and standing on 4 rubbery legs, suckers like octopus tentacles. Its head was football-shaped with an antenna sticking up. The thing gave off the green iridescent light. As reports like this came in and began to make the rounds in the news, Lewis Courtney's Sheriff William H. Worcester began an investigation to try and get at the bottom of it. This is interesting, huh? All these stories. Bottom of it, but this was allegedly stopped by a shadowy individual claiming to represent both NASA and the United States Air Force. These people, often dressed in dark suits, told the sheriff, sounds like it's a man in black, in no uncertain terms, that he was to drop the investigation, that they had it under control. His own investigation team was then replaced by what he describes as a special NASA team, including a heavily armed military unit wearing uniforms with no insignia. After that, the case of what was been referred to as the Bald Mountain's crazy critter just sort of faded away into obscurity. What was going on here? And what was this thing? Had it somehow crashed in its ship and was now wandering around aimlessly trying to figure out what to do? There are no answers. Moving along to yet another wacky case, we have a report from September 15th, 1977, the town of Pazzazina, Brazil. Town in that country. On this day, a bus driver by the name of Antonio, I'm just going to skip his name, was allegedly walking to work when he spotted a rather strange object shaped like an enormous white hat sitting in a field, measuring an impressive 200 feet. Soon after, he noted the giant. If I'm going to refer to this guy, I'm just going to call him Bob, okay? I'm not trying to say his name. Mysterious craft had lashed out with a thin, bright beam of light, which caught Bob here and whisked him away to a room of pure white. Within this room were various mechanical-looking beings with bright scales and arms like tentacles, as well as egg-shaped bodies and heads adorned with what appeared to be antennae instead of legs. The strange creatures reportedly sat upon rigid pedestals of some sort. After this initial meeting, the frightened Bob claims that he shouted at the creatures, which seemed to have the effect of making them cower in fear. He lost consciousness again, and when he awoke, he says that he was now subject to a series of images projected to the wall, including various surreal scenes, such as a dog being melted and a train entering a tunnel, the meaning of which could not be discerned. At one point during the screen of oddities and grotesques, oddities and stuff, one of the robot beings apparently reached out to draw blood from one of Bob's fingers, and after which he had splashed across a wall to form a pattern of 3 circles and letters. 3 circles in L shape. 3 circles and letters. At one point, Bob claims he had lost consciousness once again, and when he woke, he was partly back in his car, vomiting and dizzy from the whole puzzling ordeal. He would later remember fighting back and actually knocking one of the creatures to the ground, allowing him to escape. Finally, and perhaps the weirdest of all, we come to a case from the year 2002 with a witness named John F. and his friend Nelson C. of Varela, something blah blah blah. It happened in a different country, and stuff like that. This particular case starts out weird enough and then goes off the deep end into the completely bonkers. January 12th, 2002. Nelson apparently lost his pet snake, a boa constrictor, and so he went out with a friend to go and try and find it. They looked around. Min's 2 dogs started getting very agitated, barking and snarling uncontrollably as the 2 men tried to figure out what was spooking the dogs, and they then saw what they at first thought to be a stray dog on the trail before them. They shouted and threw some stones at it to scare it off, but the animal just stood there. It did not react, its features still unclear. It then began to walk towards them even as they screamed at it, and as they did, they could see that it was another worldly creature that resembled a rugby football with legs, and then it suddenly stood up to walk on 2 legs. The 2 men then felt an energy like an electrical shock in the stomach. One of the witnesses would describe the completely outlandish creature. All right. Its head, was like the one of a large dog, and it had a flat nose like a bulldog. Its eyes were slanted and pale red in color. It sounds like it might be a robot to me, right? Which could only be seen when the creature turned its head from side to side like a small lizard's. Due to its eyes, its ears were flat, round, and large. Its arms were short. They had elbows to and the hands had 3 fingers. It had hair like one on a wild pig. Its legs were like the ones from a goat. The feet had also 3 fingers and a membrane like ducks, but somehow even shorter. The back of the beast was also covered with a mane of thick hair, and it had a short tail tipped in white. Most bizarrely of all, the thing suddenly stopped its advance, stared at them for a moment, and then gave them a powerful telepathic message that boomed through their minds and said, "Don't stare, just run away." The 2 young men did exactly that. Interesting. And the thing was never seen again. It is just one more case among many that really doesn't seem to make much sense and defiles normal characteristics. Was there a cryptid, alien, a figment of the imagination? No one knows. No one knows. These have just been just a few cases among many others that really cause us to scratch our heads and wonder just what could possibly be going on. These are all completely weird and one of a off encounters, meaning these various monstrosities have only been witnessed in one specific time frame and then never again. They exist as a completely unique accounts, and that makes it hard to figure out how they fit into the world of UFO and cryptozoology as a whole. What were these utterly bizarre entities? Were they aliens, some sort of interdimensional interlopers bleeding through some veil between realities, something else? For now, it's hard to say, and these baffling reports rank among the strangest of the strange. Well, strangers, huh? Okay, that was a good article to read through. We had some fun there, huh? That was great. Lobe-grown human mini brains show normal and abnormal brain waves, huh? Let's see. Visitors' cattle mutilations considered an organ and other stuff like that. Okay. Maybe you go down here. We had some fun reading those articles, huh, folks? Let's go maybe look at some more weird stories. Maybe we should look at this cattle mutilation. All right. Let's see. What else do you think I should look at, folks? Anything else? What else should we look at tonight? We have this psychic claims that ghost saved her life at a haunted South Carolina jail. I could look at that one. Let's go a little further. Maybe I should just go back over here. Maybe look at this right here. Yeah, let's do this. All right, let's look at this cattle mutilations, huh? Yeah, this looks good. Just when you think you haven't heard of a mysterious cattle mutilation, a whole mysterious cases mutilations pops up in the current mutilation capital of the U.S., Oregon. Do I really want to read this, folks? I want to kind of look at something like monsters again. I'm just having trouble finding a few monster stories. Maybe if I go over here, Bigfoot observed near Turkey Run Park, Indiana. I think I haven't read this one before. I recently this is an older article, I know. Received a telephone call from a named witness named KS in reference to a Bigfoot encounter. On the night of March 30th, 2019, around 11:30 p.m., these companions had been at a campground at the vicinity of Turkey Run State Park, located in Park Country, Indiana. They had spent the day hiking. KS and the others were in their camper when they heard a loud thumping sound coming from the woods around them. Chaos and another companion stepped outside and looked at the direction of the thumping. They had observed a hair-covered bipedal creature with a large frame hitting a medium-sized tree with a piece of wood. The being was approximately 100 feet from them, and standing at the edge of the woods. Chaos stated that he is 6'2" and would have stood mid-chest high to this creature. He believes the height of it to at least be 8 feet. They were shocked at the total size of this being. They also immediately noticed the bright eye shine emanating from the creature. Chaos's friend ran back into the camper as Chaos stood close to the door. The beast was continuously slamming the tree with a piece of wood and then raising its arms into the air and grunting. Chaos observed the creature for about a minute until it simply turned around and walked away. There was another camper nearby, but Chaos did not see anyone. The trio quickly exited the campground spent the night in a parking lot several miles away. Okay. That's an interesting little story to read through. When humanoid encountered Salina, Utah. I could read that one. Yeah, the other stories down here. Nice over here. Evolved hybrid human, David Ickett. Maybe. Strange day in northwest Pennsylvania. Let's look at this. Let's read this story here. I'm a big outdoorsman from Pittsburgh, Pasadena. Pittsburgh, I'm going to say. So, of course, when I decided to go to college, I had to keep in mind that having some decent woods nearby, when I said to go to college, I had to keep in mind that having some decent woods nearby was a must. Upon checking a couple of places out, I decided on going to Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania, or just the borough. The biggest plus about going to the university is that my uncle Fred lived up there and was a well-known name in the community. He owns to this day a farming shop right in the middle of the small town area. This was a huge plus, since knowing people like that always equals more land to put spots in. That's all I really needed to pick the college I would be going to. Edinburgh was really cool because there are a lot of odd old buildings and strange flat landscapes as compared to the hilly land around the Pittsburgh. So it was cool to figure out how to scout the game I'd be going after once the season started. My main hunting area was directly behind my uncle's house. He had a beautiful log cabin that sits back off the road with woods on all sides of it. It was a true thing of beauty when he had the house built. He actually had the gigantic chimney made off flat stones that were found in the woods behind the trees. More on that later. As I was scouting the area for the first time, if you're wondering, folks, we're looking at this story here with this cryptid encounter. Let's get into this. As I was scouting the area for the first time, I came up on a few decent circles of boulders in the middle of the woods. They were definitely very old. The boulders were quite big, much too big to be just moved there for some reason, like a group of guys camping out. They must have taken 10 men to move them. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me, will you? It really helps me fight the algorithm, okay? So more people can see my content. Let's see. And the more people that see my content means the more people will back my graphic novel Scum Dogs. Remember, if you want to watch this video again, go to my Twitter page at 77megachris1. It will be the first pinned tweet, and you can watch this video again. Also, that's because YouTube buries my videos. So if you want to watch this again, go to my Twitter page at 77megachris1. It will be the first pinned tweet. And hit that bell, hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications. And please go share this video on Twitter and Facebook. Let's get back to this article. Is this guy who basically encountered these boulders that were too big to be moved, and see what's up with it. The boulders in the middle of the woods, they were old. The boulders and just to be, for some reason, like a group of guys camping out, they must have taken 10 men to move them, and only if they had some kind of pulley system or something of the sort. There were also smaller rocks, and when I say smaller, I'm talking like somewhere between 300 pounds or more, making inner circles inside of the large boulders. Pretty crazy. I found a total of 7 of these stands throughout the property. Some of the rocks that were not part of the chimney, they simply had to be with the amount of rocks used on it. Oh, and also, these rock circles also made a much larger circle around the woods. After a few more days of scouting with my buddy Brandon, we were sure we had our spots picked out for the first day of archery. We couldn't wait to get out there. Perfect day, too. It was great. The thing about Edinburgh, this place is that it gets is that it gets more snow per year than most of Alaska due to the lake effect snow coming across Lake Erie. What happens is before the lake freezes completely over, the water, which is warmer than the air, pushes the clouds way up into the atmosphere, too high for them to actually snow due to the low temperature all the way up there. The clouds that come around inland and fall back toward Earth, it takes more than 20 miles to do this. In Edinburgh, it was about 20 miles from the lake. What I'm saying anyway, in the first day of archery, which is the first week of October, Pennsylvania, there was a thin layer of snow. This is perfect for archery because you can see the deer in the woods much more easily, and you can also see if any animals left any tracks if they did. They were fresh since the snow didn't happen too long before that. And our trees for about 2 hours or so. Neither of us had seen anything yet. I had just got off of the radio with Brandon, who was on the other side of the property, when I was seeing some movement over to my right in the pine bucket. I then seen a branch move a little bit and seen our 4 deer legs under. I readied my bow and my stance so as to make a good clean shot at the deer around 15 feet up in a tree. I did this very carefully. About a minute after as I was looking for any movement, I lost the 4 legs inside of the thicket. This was expected due to the fact that where that deer would have been is a common feeding area for them, so I waited. Maybe another minute later, I caught movement again. It looked as if the deer would break through the thicket and into more open woods. The moment I was waiting for, as I brought the bow up into a full draw stance, I was stunned by what I was seeing. Where the deer should have been, there was a man, a strange-looking man at that. This absolutely should not have been. If there was a man anywhere near where that deer had been, the deer would have been long gone, spooked back into the thicket. I put my bow back down at the hook. I screwed into the tree and lifted my binoculars to my eyes. At only around 35 yards away, I could now see great detail of his physical appearance. He was rather rotund, with a belly leading the way, a white long sleeve shirt on with ruffles down the middle of it, just like the pirate shirt in that one episode of Seinfeld. Any of you, if you so know of it, it was tucked into the thick canvas brown pants, with pants being tucked into white socks directly below his knees. Further down, where his shoes should have been, was absolutely nothing. He had no feet whatsoever, no calves, no shins. With my eyes wide open, I thought to myself, what the F? What the? Instead of walking, he seemed to float through the woods, going right to left. This was when I started noticing other extremely strange things about him. I looked as though the binoculars at his head. It was cocked back with his chin resting down on his lower neck. His very large red bulbous nose was in the air a bit in a sort of snobby overall look. The hair, it was covered by a wig that judges in England wear. A white wig with 3 curls on the side of it where his ear would have been. I noticed that he didn't just seem to be float through the woods. He was floating through the woods. His arms stayed stuck at his side and moving as he traveled. He also never looked down. The way his head was cocked, he could have also been looking upward. This is not any person or animal walks in the woods, constantly looking down and around for obstacles that may trip over. All of this happened within a time period of maybe 20 seconds or so. He had come out of the thicket behind a medium-sized oak tree, and then when he hit the oak tree, he never came out from behind it. I watched in absolute astonishment for another 5 minutes. For another 5 minutes, waiting for him to break his cover so I could see him again. This never happened. I told Brandon what had just happened, and he was immediately made fun of. I expected that was what would be coming through the radio after I got done talking. He was saying I should have taken a picture of the only deer human minotaur remaining in the world. I told him he won't be laughing when the deer something came over to his tree stand and smacked his ass right out of it. Even though it was the middle of the hunt, I had to get down to see what the hell just happened. I knew where he would have walked. Not only would I see footprints in the snow, but it would have also been very easy to see even better tracks to the fact. Area where he was full of muddy ground. A freaking hominid would have left tracks in the muddy mess. As you perfectly guessed, when I got over to the spot where he had been, I had seen not one track from him, or a deer, or anything else that lives on planet Earth. Was utterly amazed. What happened later that night was just as creepy. The scary stuff didn't even begin yet. This point at the fateful night. After I got done checking the muddy snow ground where the man, should have left some kind of sign footprints. Went back to the tree stand and climbed back up into the height that I'd been hunting from earlier. I radioed Brandon and told him that I was back up the tree and secure. We always did this, and I precaution in case something happened while we were climbing the tree or securing the platform of the portable tree stand. We hunted the rest of the day, but not without periodic rugging from Brandon making fun of me about the the deer things, this creature and stuff. Throughout the rest of the hunt, I knew I'd be hearing about it for at least a week or so. If you're wondering why I'm not just calling Dirator, I kind of find the name a little weird, so I'm just going to skip it when I read it. It's whatever. This doesn't really sound like that. A week or so. This thing sounds more like some sort of robot, maybe an alien probe, because the way it's not really moving, it just sounds like maybe it just made look like that. Okay, let's get back to this article. Maybe longer. That's, of course, is the rest of the night. Would have been a normal one, which it turns out was not. As twilight approached, I radioed Brandon and told him I was going to start getting out of the tree. Brandon was actually in a built stand that we found while scouting in the area months prior, so I had him meet me at my spot due to the fact that it was going to take me much longer to get my stand down and off the tree. Just as I thought, Brandon was walking up to my spot, whereas I was getting off the bottom of the tree. Once I got all the way to the bottom, I unhooked the straps that was around my feet, jumped down to the ground, and started feverishly explaining to him again everything that had happened. I took him over to the muddy area to show him that there was absolutely no tracks of the snow or the mud. I definitely could sense that he didn't completely believe everything I was telling him. I was able to sense this so easily because he looked right at me with his mouth agape and his eyebrows pushing upwards in the middle of his forehead and said, Are you effing with me? Yeah. He also was able to tell that I wasn't messing with him. I looked at him and what I'm sure are some of the craziest eyes I've ever seen and said, Hell no, I ain't effing with you. When I realized that I was 100% serious, he started taking inventory of all the things that I had previously told him, and he went back and forth trying to make any kind of sense of what I had seen at all. While we were walking up to each other back and forth, he had failed to notice the nighttime was already upon us. It was then that Stephen King, full dark. It was there were no stars. Full dark, huh? Kind of nights too, due to the fact that we were looking for signs left behind from the distant ghost guy. We were in a patch of woods that we weren't very familiar with. We may have been pretty close to where my stand was, but once night falls in the woods, it's a whole new ball game. Still, the patch of woods we were in was enclosed by a triangle of roads. All we had to do was walk in a straight line, and we would come out somewhere on one of the roads. Then we just walk out that road back to my uncle's house. So we started walking. When walking in a straight line in the woods is almost impossible to do without a compass, which I didn't have, so we were both figuratively and literally in the dark when it came to where we were. A couple of minutes into the walk, we heard a loud scream as if someone was being murdered. Now I know that what every animal in the woods around here sounds like, both normally or in a panic mode, makes death cries. I see videos often of YouTube of people recording sound in their backyard that they think is a person who needs help, only be a rabbit screaming from being attacked by some predator like a coyote or fox. This is not all that at all. It's not that. After waiting a couple of minutes to see if the screaming would continue, we started walking again in the direction we thought we should be going. We didn't talk much about what we had just heard, probably because of the anxiety we were both feeling. We couldn't ignore it for long, though, because we heard another long, blood-curdling scream. It was closer this time and sounded different. At first, we thought it sounded like a woman being attacked. This new scream sounded threatening. Ironically, we felt like we were the only ones being stalked and hunted at this point. Yeah. Still, we pushed forward. After walking about another 100 yards, we came across something very strange directly in our path. Where are these weird, clear, gelatinous masses on top of the leaf litter? Now I'm 32, which isn't an age that necessarily screams wisdom from experience, but I've been in the woods since as far back as I can even remember. My old man taught me that everything there is to know about the wilderness around us, so we take it from me. These clear globs should not have been there. The only thing I could think of that could even slightly look like it was tree sap, and this was absolutely not tree sap. I poked one of the masses. You moron. What if it's some sort of bioweapon by the army? Maybe what you were seeing is hallucinations brought up by some sort of what bioweapon the military was testing on people, and you just poked it. Or it's maybe maybe sky jelly. Basically, could be an atmospheric beast that just died. Massive with a stick, fearing that they were made of. Oh, so he poked it with a stick. That's still not very smart. I had read a story about a town that had clear gelatinous globs rained down on them. A lot of these people got very sick, and if I'm not mistaken, I think a couple of them even died. So, needless to say, I was taking precautions. There is consistency, okay, but you shouldn't be poking it. Was that of a thick gelatin, like if you made Jello with only 1 cup of water instead of 2. Once we started walking again, we started to come across a good amount of this stuff. It wasn't all over the woods. Instead, it was directly in front of us as we walked, almost like someone or something knew which route we would try to take and marked it with these globs. Another scream, this time even closer and with a little something added in. This time, not too far away from us, we heard leaves rustling and a couple of twigs snap. Something was definitely there. It would have been a deer, but this was unlikely. However, it wasn't spooked at all, not from us or the threatening scream. It's easy to tell when you're spooked an animal and that they start running. On top of that, most of the leaves were still very moist, therefore not making as much noise as they normally would. This sent our anxiety level through the roof, and at this point, the only big thing that was on our minds was getting the hell out of there. We were no longer curious about floating men, screams, or alien jelly. We just wanted out, which should have been very soon. The distance we walked should have come across. Yeah, it could also be that they're dealing with ultra-terrestrials, because if they don't come across that road soon, then most likely they're being screwed with somehow, basically magically, maybe, that they're not really getting out of there. Very interesting story, which should have been very soon. The distance we walked should have come across a road by now, but it hadn't yet. Strangers still. We couldn't even see any house. It could be ultra-terrestrials or maybe aliens here. We have very weird things going on. Not only do we have stuff that feels like it could be ultra-terrestrials, we have ghosts, we have sky jelly, we have random screams, we have something trying to stalk them in the background. Whatever this is, it sounds like it's more than just one kind of phenomenon going on here. I mean, the ghost guy, this guy saw a ghost, some guy who looked like that, floating. We see this gelatinous blobs. Could very well be sky jelly, or even the remains of an atmospheric beast. There are no stars. There are no stars in the sky because there's cloud cover, and they're stumbling around the woods, and they basically can't find the road now, which they should have been able to find by now, folks. What do you think it is that they're dealing with here? Could it be aliens? Well, ultra-terrestrials or extraterrestrials, or just aliens and stuff like that? Either way, let's keep reading forward. The distance we walked, we come across the road. Strangers still, we couldn't even see any house or street lights at all. Still, we just kept walking, thinking we'd find our way out very, very soon. It was not to be, at least not yet. Our flashlights were now beginning to die, so we were definitely... Their flashlights are going to die. Oh boy. A hurry, which is, by the way, is not what you should do if you were ever even maybe lost in the woods. Cool heads always prevail in that situation. Anyways, we were walking, we started to see a couple of pine trees. This is very strange because we had thoroughly scoured this area. The only pine trees were over near my stand where we started. After seeing a couple of more, we started to get a forbidding feeling, almost like a sick, anxious panic feeling. We stopped for a minute to check our surroundings and found that the exact spot that we stopped was the same spot we started. We were standing right next to a pine tree with a dead pine next to it that had a branch broken off and dangling still from the 7th limb. How could this be? We had been sure that we were walking in a somewhat straight shot out, but that must have been an absolute possibility since we have made a circle. We had no idea whatsoever how this had happened, especially since we were in the exact spot we started at. Also very strange, we seen my tree stand that was still hanging on the tree. It was very close to us, and when we started to walk out, it was nowhere to be found. We walked over to it and immediately found the trail that we had to take to get out of the woods. It led directly back to my uncle's backyard. The trail actually went right past the live pine tree we had just been standing under. There is no way we had missed that in the beginning. To add more to the strangeness, as we walked only about 20 yards down the trail, we could plainly see my uncle's light and that he had above the garage to illuminate his driveway. Our minds were blown, but at least we were able to get out. On the last 100 yards of the trail, we found more clear gelatin globs directly down the middle of the path. This was definitely crazy because they absolutely were not there when we walked in. We had both been on that trail when we had entered the woods. We'd have seen them for sure. We heard no more screams after the time we heard the rustling of the leaves and the twigs break, but we had a strong feeling of being watched when we were still in the woods, an even stronger version of of that same feeling as we stopped in my uncle's backyard. This is the top of my list of scariest experiences in the woods. I have no explanation for any of it. Part of it, not the floating ghost guy, not the screams or the globs. Well, not the gelatin, not the getting lost in the woods, and not the circle of boulders. I would love to hear from anyone who had anything like this happen to them. There has to be some kind of answer, but at this point, all I have to is my story about what had happened that night. And thankfully, one other person who went through it with me. At least he was able to validate what had happened to people that didn't believe this actually happened to us. Whether you guys believe it or not is up to you, but I promise that this had all happened exactly how I wrote it. I know it sounds pretty crazy out there, but this stuff actually happened, and that's the scary thing to think about next time you go into the woods. You guys find yourselves in the woods. Something incredible had happened back there. I'm thankful that we were able to get out of the woods without having anything bad happen to us. What it did do was made my wanting to understand the paranormal even stronger. One day I'm going to go back there myself and camp for a night or two in the hopes that something might happen again, and that I have the world to seek whatever it was out and get some answers that I desperately want. All right, that was an interesting article right there, wasn't it, folks? Let's see, maybe I'll read one more article and stuff before I go and stuff. A short one, hopefully. A short article. Look for it. Let's see. Maybe a short article. Let's see another short article we can find. Red-eyed harbinger of death. Maybe. Let me go over here. I just want to find another short article. Let's go over here. All right. Let's see this. Wicked 2 cents, 2 slender black beings. How long is this article? Looks a little too long for me. I just wanted a short one, just another short one. Unexplained disappearances. Oh, yeah. Maybe a little too long. Just let me find it. Daily 2 cents. Strange sounds. And last time we beware of who you help. The man rigged front door to electrocute pregnant. Heard about this. Maybe go up here. Let's try a different thing. It's like that. Let's see. I'm trying to find a short article here to read. Maybe try 2015. Absorbed. A witness observes phantom airliner. Let's see how long is this. Maybe a little too long. Of course, if Daily Sense. Do not look at me. Black Panthers reports in Texas. Media's reasons for ignoring UFOs. How long is this one? Still a little too long. Bizarre Indian encounter while deer hunting. Okay, let's see this. Oh, there's a short one. Yeah, bizarre entity encounter with deer hunting. Here's what the entity looked like. It looks like a robot, huh? Let's read the story. Buttsville, Pasadena, 12/2014. Right. I was deer hunting, seated in my stand at a ground level facing generally north. The field is 20 acres tractor mode. I was near the upper middle, near a large rock and cherry tree. If you're wondering, folks, we're just looking at cryptid stories tonight and having some fun. Cherry tree, this entity was first seen with naked eyes, though thought it might be a light and leaves playing tricks on my sight. The oak and beech tree bush still had their leaves. Sometimes this can happen when you are out all day in 18 Fahrenheit temperatures. Then observed it with 10 by 50 binoculars. It was still there. I noticed that their area was very quiet, no birds or other normal outside sounds. My observation lasted about 6 minutes. I carry a field notebook as we are very active birders. I sketched what I saw and noted colors and size. No snow, little wind, 18 degrees Fahrenheit. The entity appeared very solid, and I observed no movable joints. It never moved. The legs looked like a stovepipe, 6 inches diameter. The arms were the same, terminated rounded ends, no digits. Ends were even with the crotch. The body was also about 14 inches in diameter. The head looked like a round bottom bucket turned upside down. About as tall as the body was 14 inches wide. In the area where the eyes would be was a black shiny area 3 inches wide and stretching across the front. Overall, the height was over 9 feet. It was standing in weeds, goldenrod. I could not see the feet. I never saw it arrive, and it departed while I was scanning for deer. If it stayed there, I would have tried to approach it. I had no fear and lots of questions. I would like to know if other folks have observed similar entities. Oh, interesting. That's an interesting story to end, huh? Okay. This is a nice little story there. I'm going to thank you all for joining me tonight. We had a good live stream, had some fun. We looked at cryptids and having some fun. Please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. The there in the title is misspelled. It's THERE. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below because I want to hear from you guys. Hit that like button because it helps me fight the algorithm. Yeah, hit that like button. It helps fight the algorithm. And the more people that do so means my graphic novel Scum Dogs comes out all the sooner. Remember, if you want to watch this video again, go to my Twitter page at @77megachris1. It'll be the first pinned tweet. That's @77megachris1. All right. Also, hit that bell. Hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications and all future notifications. And please go share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. Remember, folks, also go over and subscribe to Stitched Together Pics. Stitched Together Pics is a YouTube channel hosted by the Maniacal Cinephile. He does reviews of movies. You're going to love his reviews. They are funny as hell. He plays this character called a Maniacal Cinephile who has multiple personality disorder. So you're not just getting one character. You're just getting a fun time. Go and subscribe to Stitched Together Pics. Also, please go over and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. He does small videos talking about high strangeness, but he also does live streams every night. On weekdays, he live streams at 12:30 a.m. and on weekends at 10 o'clock p.m. He talks about aliens and ghosts and learns so much from watching his live streams. They are great. They are just great, man. All right. Also, please remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock p.m. for another live stream. So be sure to come back again then. I'm Chris Williams from the Scum Dogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining.